When creating a related service referral tracker in SharePoint, it's important to remember that you must fill out a related service referral tracker anytime you hold any kind of IEP meeting where you're updating a related service, which includes speech, even though I know that's not listed in the IEP, that's listed in services outside of the Gen Ed classroom. We do need to put it in the related service referral tracker so they get services. But it's important to fill this out the day of the meeting because the related service team does have a short turnaround to get these services to be set up. So make sure you complete the tracker. Even if I know it's the end of the day and you're tired, you need to make sure you complete that tracker the day of the meeting. So what you're going to do, you're going to go into SharePoint, you're going to go under the trackers, and you're going to find the related service referral tracker. Once you click on Related Service Referral Tracker, you're going to select New, and this screen will show up. I skipped the new step because I didn't want to show students' names, but you're going to fill in all areas that have an asterisk. Make sure that all of those are filled in or the tracker will not be accepted. So make sure you complete all areas. Do not forget any area that's here. Student status, make sure you select the appropriate one. New referral would be any student new to GCA, for example, any new intakes or any new student, or if the student is having a new service that's being added. Updated referral would be, for example, for any annual review that you're holding, because you're changing the date, so that needs to go in there. If you're lowering or adding more time that you held, it, for example, an IEP amendment. ESY would be extended school year, compensatory time. The related service team would have talked to you about that. Dismissal from service would be for any student where the parent has revoked consent for services or where the student's been exited from that and the team has agreed they're no longer eligible or they'll no longer need that service. Provider change request, again, you would have talked with the related service team first, and review of service we used in the beginning of the year when setting up services. The service start date, that's really important. Whenever the date started for the IEP. If it's an evaluation request, again, follow all the directions. You want to make sure that's the date of the meeting, the end date, what's the end date on the IEP, or if it's an evaluation, it's 30 days after the meeting. And you can just use your Outlook calendar and count up 30 days, and that doesn't include weekends or school holidays. I'm just going to jump right here too to talk about evaluations. If you do select the evaluation, for example, say your service here, say you selected an OT eval. Anytime that you're choosing any kind of evaluation that the team has agreed is necessary, you must include a parental consent to evaluate. That must be signed during the actual IEP meeting. We can no longer have those signed outside of a meeting. For example, we can't have parent give us permission over the phone. Those have to be done during a meeting so we can document that in the minutes. But you want to make sure you click this attach file. Let me scroll up a little bit. Click attach file and make sure you find that consent to evaluate form. So I'm just going to pick a random one, but make sure you attach that signed form, and you can tell if it's been loaded. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see an attachment there once you've added any attachment. So that's really important to include. And also, if there's an FBA, you want to make sure you attach a copy of their behavior intervention plan or their BIP. So keep going on. You're going to put their per session time. Again, look at the notes here. It's not the total amount they get weekly. It's how much they get per session. So if it's actually written in the IEP as 30 minutes 2 times a week, then that's what you would write. If it's written as 60 minutes 1 time a week, then that's what you would write. So however it's written in the IEP is how you want it there. And remember, we're no longer writing IEPs with just per. You want to include either 1, 2, however many times a week they're using. Service model, most always you're going to be checking not specified in IEP. We do have virtual options for occupational therapy or OT or speech. But you only want to select an actual virtual or face-to-face selection here if it's a discussion that's been held during the meeting. If for some reason due to the students' deficits they really require that face-to-face, or because of transportation issues maybe they have to have that virtual or they won't be able to go, that's fine, but it just should be documented in the minutes as to why they need that. Otherwise, if you didn't discuss it, just select not specified in the IEP. Notes you can include here for any one-off situations. Also, if there's been an address change and it's not accurate in Infinite Campus, you can include that correct address and phone number there. So you're just going to, again, keep scrolling down, put your first name. Have they had an address change, yes or no? And again, if they have and it's not accurate in IC, then I would include that in the notes. This is really important. Did you attach a PCE or parental consent to evaluate? If you are requesting an evaluation, you should select yes. If it's not an evaluation, you can just select not an eval request. And don't password protect those. Just attach the actual document. You don't need to attach the Word document. Your school level, whichever level you're teaching, your lead's last name. And the other final thing that's really important to attach is the IEP progress report. And this is the note that is going to be sent to the related service provider for your student. And you want to make sure you fill this out correctly. So you're going to fill in all the information. If it's an updated referral and they already have, for example, if they've been receiving speech and we held the annual and we're continuing that, you can include the provider and the therapist's name. Obviously, if it's a new student, you'll leave that blank because they haven't been set up yet. You'll include the student's first and last name, their date of birth, and then the type of therapy, speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, any of the therapies that they're receiving. And now remember, you want one progress report per therapist. So for example, if the student receives occupational therapy and speech, you should have 2 progress reports because one is going to go to each therapist. And they may be working on the same goals, and that's okay, but you want to make sure you want to have 1 progress report that's going to be sent to each therapist. So once you fill out the top part, you're going to copy and paste all of the goals that are in the student's IEP that therapist will be working on. So the speech therapist doesn't need their math goals. They just need the goals that they're particularly working on. So any of the language goals or articulation goals, some speech therapists might work on some reading goals. The occupational therapist might be working on the writing goals. Any goals that therapist will be working on, you'll copy and paste into these boxes here. You can leave the comments blank, and then the related service team will send this progress note to that provider. This is one thing that's being forgotten, and it's really, really important. If the student has any fine motor, handwriting, or typing goals, or that's something that therapist will be working on, you must include the handwriting and typing form. And the therapist should include any overall handwriting documentation. So that's really, really important that be included. And you can find that in SharePoint. I'm going to show you where. So to find those forms in SharePoint, you go to the SPED tab, 15-16 school year special ed department-wide docs, and then the related service folder. Click on related service, and you can see here, this is where you can find the progress note, where you're going to attach to every tracker that you're updating with either new goals or that service is extending. So you can find that there. Here are the forms I'm talking about, the handwriting and typing and observation forms. If the therapist will be working on handwriting or typing goals, then you need to make sure that the therapist has a copy of this. So you can attach that if you'd like to the progress report, but make sure, because the related service team needs to know that that's being worked on. So I would suggest you emailing a copy of this to the related service provider to make sure that they know. That way when it's time for progress reports, that way you'll have that information. So that is all there. So you're going to fill out all that information, and then once you've done that, like I said, you'll select OK, and I just got off that page because if I select OK, it would show all the students' names. Once you select OK on the related service tracker, it's going to go back to that main screen where all the students' names are, and you can sort and filter by their last name or student ID number. If it stays on that main screen, let me show you. If it stays on this main screen after you select OK, you've attached everything you needed to, the progress reports, everything that needs to go in, and you select OK, and you stay on this screen, most likely it's because you've made an error. Either you haven't filled out the appropriate forms here. Remember, if it has an asterisk, it must be filled out. Internet Explorer works best. Sometimes it could be a browser issue, but if you filled it out correctly and you click OK, you're going to go back to the main screen and you can find where all the students' names are listed. And again, you can filter by the last name just to be sure that it did show. And then you're finished. If you have any questions, the Related Service team does have an open office every Monday from 12 to 1. If you need the invite, then you can feel free to ask me, Becky Moody. I'll be happy to forward that to you. And if you have any other questions, just let the Related Service team know, or again, you can attend their open office. They'll be happy to help you.